evening, Mr. Satish. Nice to have you on for this particular chat. Just a quick introduction from my side. I am Nishant Goel, founder and CEO of Bot Mantra. We primarily focuses on robotic process automation technologies. This is a great opportunity for us to interact and understand your views, your journey around how you feel about automation, what kind of challenges which you are facing, and primarily focus for this particular discussion, which you would like to understand more about the change management, how exactly the change is getting executed on the ground. So, it would be helpful that if you can just quickly introduce yourself to the audience. I think that would be really helpful.
Sure. Thank you, Nishant. Thanks, Images Group, for having me on the session. So I've been leading IT for Arvind Fashions for the last couple of years. And I've been a career retail and a consumer products company person throughout my 26 years of career. And I look forward to a very relevant discussion in today's day and time, especially when so much is happening around us. And in the midst of it, automation has really gained a very different perspective, when compared to what it was even a couple of years back. So look forward to it, Nishant.
Thanks, Satish. I'll probably start to understand a bit more about your journey towards automation. So if I look at today's retail industry, we are facing good amount of challenges. On one hand, the external factors like COVID and others, which is giving us challenge. Customer expectations have gone really high. And this is a hyper competitive environment, which I see. So in this case, when we try to really look at deploying our digital and the business strategy, automation comes obviously at the center of it. So if you can throw some light on what exactly is your automation journey so far with respect to the kind of challenges which the complete industry is facing right now.
Sure. No, that's a very deep question and a very broad question. I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible in terms of how I can respond to that. See, I think the fundamental shift in the business that we have seen over the last couple of years is our customer experiences, our customer revenue profiles, our supply chain revenue, our supply chain profiles, our sourcing profiles, and our employee profiles and our employee experience profiles, right? All of this have significantly altered, right? And it's a time where we need to really reevaluate any automation solution, not in the context of a cost saving or an efficiency parameter, essentially, although these things will be absolutely important, but more from a paradigm of ideation in innovation, and how much more effective we can do the new way of things that we are planning out for our customers, for our partners, and for our employees, right? So if you look at automation in that context, it's really about reimagining everything in a retail value chain, right? Starting from design to plan to make, source, to move and sell, right? And the experience and then the feedback all over, right? So every aspect of the retail value chain, and specifically for a business like apparels and fashion value chain, is impacted by these three dimensions of customer, supply chain, and employee experience. Now, keeping effectiveness and innovation as our pivot, right? If we were to really focus on these two, because efficiency is something that we have always seen in the past, right? And it is a kind of a flattening curve at some point in time, because the more you do, the incremental benefits are going to be definitely there, but not significantly quantum when it compares to doing things for certain new ideas or new business process models, or looking at reimagining the process itself and doing it in a more effective way, right? So that's really the opportunity that the whole pandemic has offered us today, and specifically in the retail business, given the change in the revenue transformation, the revenue profile transformation that we have come across. I think that's really the great opportunity that we have in front of us. And everything that we do is to really address these capabilities and requirements that our customers, our supply chain, and our employees expect out of us, right? Uh, so just to kind of enunciate and probably one level of detail, if you look at a fashion business, right, typically it's a very seasonal business, right? So you have something which gets sold in summer, something which doesn't get sold in summer, gets sold only in winter, and these are not exchangeable, right, to put it in simple words. So it's all about how do I really design, how do I plan my merchandise, and how do I make a more effective proposition of assortments across my store portfolio, across my distribution portfolio. While this is something that we have always been doing as a business, I think automation has, in the context of where we are in the pandemic, has really given this a lot more impetus, right, in terms of carrying a lot of this work digitally. And when you carry it digitally, fundamentally, there are very dimensional changes that happens to the problem itself, because your ability to reach your partners through a digital medium is far more higher, especially when it comes to, say, a planning and a design phase of a product. You can reach a lot more catchment of customers and suppliers likewise, when compared to doing something in a physical form, right? So that is a huge shift, which has made us reimagine what type of cataloging, what type of content, what type of back end transformations that need to be done right at the garmenting and the manufacturing end. And everything, each of these aspects is touched by technology and is touched by automation, right? So laying down this blueprint across the value chain, and I just took an example of, say, design aspect of a apparel life cycle. Complete, this can be extended to the supply chain, this can be extended to the customer experience, the store front, the web front, the app front, any aspect of it, right? So what we have essentially done is to look at each of these aspects, not as in a silo, but in a more integrated way, because sometimes you get too overexcited about doing certain things at the customer end and leaving a lot of breakages and leakages at the back end, right?
Correct.
Your internal back end operations have to be remediated quite a lot, and most of this happens in a very reactive way, and this causes a lot of frustration in any organization when you have, say, huge reconciliations or huge audits that get piled up over a period of time because you did something different in the front end. You really didn't take care of streamlining things at the back end. So our approach has been to really look at it in a more integrated way, so that whatever we do is A, sustainable, and B, it is scalable, right? I think if we are not addressing these two dimensions of a problem in designing the process and automating it, then we would have probably done a good job for a period of time, but we couldn't take it beyond for time to come. And of course, things are changing, things are evolving. So everything that we do also has to be foundational from an automation perspective, so that you don't keep reinventing the elements time and again, but you rather create a strong platform on which onboarding more and more bots and automation assets. And I'm using automation in a very loose sense. Our automation comprises of bots. It comprises of a lot of API-driven integrations. It comprises of a lot of publish subscribe kind of models, and of course the traditional FTP and those kind of stuff, right, is also part of the automation. So we have a pretty composite platform, and depending on the context, we are able to actually create and reinvent whatever is needed for different aspects of the business.
I think this is a great insight, and one key point which I really took out of this is that it's important that we look at the whole business in a much more holistic manner, because that's when we'll be in a position to identify the more sustainable and more scalable solutions built as part of the whole organization. I think this is a great start. And now, if I really look at it, means the digitization is one part of it, and you have defined the automation pretty well, because when we talk of automation in today's world, everyone thinks that it's all bots, it's all robotic process automation, but it's not. Definitely, there are a lot many other things which is there. And if I look at almost a decade ago, we from the IT side perspective, we were not even thinking around RPA. This, I was talking to every CIO and said that RPA, boss, this is just a screen scraping technology. Please do not talk about it. But now the perception is changing, and the value additions and the kind of benefits which we are getting is much higher than this. One key part which I wanted to understand, let's say we go with lots of changes, maybe because of digital transformation, and part of that, the automation side of it, obviously the requirement on the human workforce is going to get reduced. And one of the major factor which I'm seeing is that when we talk about these processes to understand this bit in more in detail, there is a kind of a apprehension at each and every at the workforce level. They are either not giving us the complete set of understanding of the whole process, or they are actually having a fear that my job will go off. I'm sure you must have experienced at least some portion of this. So if you can throw some light on this aspect, I think that would be really great.
Sure. I think the context of putting processes on RPAs and having bots to perform certain functions which are more repetitive and routine is can be viewed in two set of frames, right?
Mhm.
So the first frame is obviously around what has been tried and tested and proven by a manual effort over a period of time, which is a traditional effort, and that you are actually trying to bring in more efficiencies in terms of the number of hours that it can be operated, because a bot can theoretically operate 24/7 by 365, and then deliver certain value, right?
Mhm.
And no doubt it is something which everybody understands that uh, a simple report which probably a couple of people in the system was actually generating, sitting for maybe 8 hours a day and doing it for maybe 4 days a week. They would think that if the bot is going to do it in about 15 minutes, then what happens to my job, right? It's a very valid question, but I think I would address it from two perspectives, right? uh, the the perspective which we have really tried to inculcate is how do we focus on the next frame of activities which are essentially driven by a lot of market changes that is coming into our business, right? As I said, the customer experience is changing, the customer experience requirements are changing, and it's not just from a storefront perspective, it's right through our B2B customers, supply chain, so on and so forth. So if I were to reinvent a process, and if I were to actually uh, digitize it right from the point of its inception, then I think there is very little scope for anybody to double guess whether I would take 4 days to do it and a bot will take only 15 minutes to do it. So am I losing anything? Rather, there is a double incentive for that individual to rather be part of those type of initiatives, and then not only help reimagine the process and make it more effective, but also be part of a growth profile within the organization, and which is where I think uh, universally bot is being positioned as, because everybody know that the whole myth of bots and automation taking away human jobs, I think that myth is kind of lost its relevance now, especially now because of the pandemic, because everybody is trying to do something new. And when you try to do something new, you obviously think in a little more contemporary native manner or a digital native manner,
Mhm.
in which case you don't have that conflict of past versus present kind of a thing, right? So, and in any case, that this is where I think the maximum bang for the buck for automation lies, right? Because if you do traditional automation stuff through traditional workloads through automation, there will be efficiencies, and there will be soon a threshold where you will not see incremental benefits,
Mhm.
and the incremental benefits will only come by significantly scaling it up across new processes, which again will meet its plateau at some stage, right? So I don't think that's a very small battle that we need to fight. I would rather focus on effectiveness. I would rather focus on ideas for the new business model to take to the market. What are the processes around that? How do we automate it? And how do the existing workforce actually onboard themselves into doing that as a significant part of automation. And then this kind of leads to, the citizen approach for development, right, which is almost a de facto industry standard now, right, where it's by the users, it's for the users, and it is pivoted towards what's contemporary and what's relevant and what's future looking, from an effectiveness and an innovation standpoint. So I think if you start looking at things from this frame rather than the traditional efficiency frame, then I think the argument will stand a little busted with respect to job losses and stuff like that.
I think you have touched a very great point on this, that if the complete picture is there in front of us and we are overhauling the complete set of business, and if this is communicated efficiently to the workforce, I think that is going to be the key. Because where exactly I'm finding this kind of a problem is that if we are taking a piecemeal approach, this is the set of group, I need to do this automation, and after that, this group is going to be used for something else. Because no one is saying that you will be fired, but they are saying that yes, you will be used for utilized for something else. But
Yeah.
obviously, there is a fear around this. And the second aspect in this scenario is, let's say, for example, if you're just repurposing the workforce, then in that scenario, how to really calculate the quantitative benefits? Because ultimately, whatever we are doing, we need to showcase this number. You earlier touched upon that, obviously this is second priority, but obviously this is a priority that we have to showcase the productivity and the efficiencies percentages also. So how to really balance these two things and come back, because these are some long-term strategies which will give us long-term benefits. But what about the short term?
Sure. So I think short term is about getting a lot more traction on building the fundamentals for the long term, right?
Mhm.
As you said, we cannot view things as a silo, right? So if there is a say a sales operations, there is a supply chain operations, there's a commercial operations, there's a finance operations, for instance, we cannot view each of these as end-to-end operations in itself in today's context, even more than before, where something is going to get done by a department or by a silo within that function, and they just need to push some papers to somebody else for them to carry on with wherever they left, right? I think that type of approach is anyway, I think we have outlived those type of silos to a great extent, right? And even in any mature organization has definitely outlived it. So in that and even if somebody has not outlived it, for instance, right, it's about how do we start building those bridges and making the value chain more like a program delivery, right, rather than a single task delivery or a single workflow delivery, right? So there is enough and more to actually look at optimizing some of these things. Like any standard automation goes through a journey, right? So you always have some tasks that get eliminated, right? And then once you eliminate certain tasks, you get an opportunity to optimize on the tasks that you think are actually relevant for the job to get done. And once you optimize, you then integrate the tasks between the subsequent functions who need to carry down those activities. And once you integrate it, you actually found a good amount of efficiency. And then once you get the efficiency, it's about getting to the next curve of how do you adopt it for newer business processes, using this as a platform for improving effectiveness of those processes right from word go, rather than having to go through the same journey. And then how to innovate on them using this platform that you've created, right? So I think a lot of our typical market tools on not just robotics but any other operational excellence or process control tools that you see in the market really drives itself to that kind of an approach, right? Where you just don't do a visio of a process within a function and try to do everything within it and say that we've kind of got nirvana out of this, right? So that's probably, it was true 10 5 maybe even 5 years back, but I think now with a lot of catch up that is happening, especially post COVID, I think it's all about integrated business operations. And it's about viewing things as a control tower. You viewing the enterprise as a control tower in some sense, right? And everybody at different vantage points within the organization having different views of the control tower depending on what they need to take decisions on, right? I think that is and how to get there. I think there are a lot of micro elements still to be done in the short term to answer your question. And once you focus on creating a platform with those elements across the function, and somebody needs to own the platform. I think the key thing is that, right? Because once you abstract all the departmental processes into a platform process, then if you then the departmental process still feel secure that they're doing what they're doing, which is fine in the short term. But the platform process really abstracts and works on the elimination and optimization and the innovation of the new activities that need to be built. And that really lays the foundation for doing more things more effectively and doing things more innovatively, right? And there are enough tools and market leading processes which are kind of implemented. And of course we've also work on a similar approach, and we are somewhere in the journey as we speak.
Great. I think, Satish, this is a really great insight. I'll just add one more example. Yesterday only I have seen this. I was by chance, actually, two of the solution designs came to me for the review. And I looked at it, one from the finance operations. They are trying to extract the information, consolidating it, sending it to the sales operations. Sales operation says that this is what I'm getting now. This is what I need to process and update this. Now, if these are the two different bots requirements, I said, if you just simply consolidate this and one cron job does the job, it's just like stitching the story with the two applications. And but only thing is that it's by chance that these two things came on my table. But if these two people are actually not talking, so the holistic picture about the platform setting up, getting all the departments onto this, they should come out of there thinking about how they're looking at their business in silo. I think that's going to be the key aspect of it.
That's very critical. Very critical. Yeah.
Any final message which you would like to give it to the IT in the aspect of retail industry? Means, what are the key messages which you would like to give it to them? Obviously, one is the holistic picture, understanding this, but any other message which you would like to give it to our audience?
I think as both IT, digital, and industry folks, we probably I think a good almost every 9 out of 10% would probably claim this, that they've done what they probably struggled to do for 7, 8, 10 years. They probably did this a lot of those changes in the last 18 months, right, or 2 years at most. So I think that should give all of us a lot of confidence, right, that if there is a direction, if there is a thrust and a focus, then I think it's possible, right? I think it is almost recalibrated speed, speed to digital in a very different, frame of reference when compared to, post-COVID. And that's probably been the pre-COVID. And that's been the biggest learning that we all have out of, the last 18, 20, 24 months. So I think with that, we should probably, use this as a new benchmark of estimate in terms of, how do you bring agility to digital, and how do you bring agility to changes and automation that you want to bring within firms. And this will be really a stepping platform to do a lot more things in a much more hyper agile and a scalable fashion than what we've ever done in the past. Personally, to me, that has been the biggest learning, and I'm sure this will resonate with a good amount of people in the industry as well.
Certainly, this makes sense, Satish, and we'll definitely be looking at some of these aspects. It was nice talking to you, and I hope paths will cross sometime and we'll get more time to talk. So great talking to you, and thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you, Nishant. Nice speaking to you.
Same
Thank
here.
you, Majors Group.